Good night.
Are American youngsters being educated as the workforce of the future? The Japanese wonder, and President Bush tries to catch up.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Here's a question for all of us. American workers, are they energetic and educated enough for the demanding international economy? Japanese officials are skeptical, although today they did soften their criticism. And as NBC's Robert Hager tells us now, Japan aside, there are problems.
9,000 in Chicago last week waiting to apply for 1,000 jobs. A memorable snapshot of the plight of American workers this winter. But analysts say there are problems with the quality of workers available.
There is a growing divide in the workforce between the bottom half, who have less skill, less education, and those people at the very top, the top 20% who go to the best schools, who are hauling down fatter paychecks than ever.
400 companies responding to a November survey for the National Association of Manufacturers reported that they must reject 5 of every 6 job applicants because the candidates are unqualified. Many companies said they regularly reject applicants who cannot read adequately or write adequately. Margaret Regan supervised the report.
The overall findings were that the skills gap is much more severe than any of us imagined, even during a recession.
And problems may get worse. The Labor Department forecasts the greatest need for workers will be in the very jobs that require the most education. Healthcare calls for a college degree. So do the computer sciences, systems analysis, and data processing, jobs of the future. The number of jobs which don't require advanced education are shrinking. The factory assembly line and work on the farm.
Those workers in the bottom half really do face frightening prospects, I think, over the next decade.
Over the next 15 years, a 31% increase in the number of black workers is expected, and a 75% increase in Hispanic workers, the very groups for which educational opportunities are too often inadequate.
Business needs to engage in a massive retraining project over the next 10 to 15 years in order to come up to world-class standards. And we've got to radically reform our education system, which over the last 25 years, unfortunately, has not been world-class.
By all accounts, a dilemma, but unless solved, many employers claim they won't be able to improve the products and services of the future because they won't have the skilled workers to do it. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
And with the Japanese criticism of American workers, President Bush's recent Tokyo trip loses even more points. In an effort to turn things around, the president will formally announce his candidacy for re-election on Lincoln's birthday, February 12th, and then campaign that day in New Hampshire. NBC's John Cochran tells us tonight, today the president was trying to crank up the education image. John?
Tom, the White House was trying today to downplay the recent bashing of American education by Japanese leaders. That criticism hardly fits with Bush's ambitions to be the education president. The president can't turn American education around in time for this year's election, but today he did try to keep a campaign promise he made in the last election. In '88, he promised that Head Start programs would be available for every eligible 4-year-old. Today, he promised the money.
I will ask Congress for a $600 million increase in Head Start, the largest increase ever.
Democrats said that's fine for 4-year-olds, but they claim Head Start money is also needed for 3- and 5-year-olds.
America's children need more than an election year handout. They need a long-term commitment to their school readiness and their future.
The would-be education president got off to a shaky start 3 years ago by choosing an education secretary who got poor grades on the job. Bush remedied that mistake with Lamar Alexander, who gets high marks. In 1989, Bush also accepted the advice of the nation's governors for a national plan focusing on science and math education. Bush thanked the governors like Bill Clinton.
Well done, Bill. Well done. You did a wonderful job.
But that was then, and this is an election year.
The only reason he's promoting this new budget for Head Start is because he's dropped below 50% in the polls.
In New Hampshire last week, a voter told Bush he has not really been the education president. Bush admitted he has failed to sell his education plan.
The thing that troubles me is I don't think that we've gotten that across. It is a good sensible program.
Bush came into office saying he would try to emulate his hero, Teddy Roosevelt, by using the bully pulpit to sell his programs like education reform. But so far, that sales pitch has fallen short. Tom?
Thank you, John. When the Japanese official who criticized American worker skills and habits expressed regrets today for any misunderstanding, it came too late for many on the assembly line in this country. And NBC's Mike Betcher has that story tonight.
The word moved up the assembly line faster than a new car. The insult from Japan didn't play well along the Ford Taurus assembly line in Chicago.
Oh, you little Japs that come down to Chicago.
When they read that they couldn't read and were lazy and made poor products, well, those were fighting words.
I don't like what they said. I may be fat, but I'm not lazy.
They should bring Japanese workers through here and let them see how American workers work. You don't see nobody that's standing around being lazy. All these guys take pride in their work.
The criticism cut deep in Detroit, too.
It hurts me. It really hurts. Because I know what we do. If the Japanese are doing better, I'd like to see how.
And for the politicians who represent blue-collar America, the rhetoric of war applied.
That's the same attitude, the same arrogance you saw back when the Japanese bombers were headed to Pearl Harbor.
So many well-qualified Americans are out of work that plant managers say there is no shortage of talented applicants to fill the openings.
In our own case, we certainly found enough highly educated people right here in Michigan, forget about the rest of the United States, to do probably one of the most advanced automotive components available in the marketplace today.
At Dristan Manufacturing, they make components for American and Japanese products. They've had no complaints from Japan about quality, but there is concern that the current controversy could be bad for business.
We took a small step forward after the president's visit, and now this type of statement is a giant step backward.
In assembly lines across America, workers point to the Japanese comments as proof that no matter how good a car they build, no matter how hard they work, the Japanese still aren't going to buy American cars. At least they hope their own countrymen will start believing in their product. Mike Betcher, NBC News, Chicago.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, the U.S. Supreme Court assigns an abortion case, but it's not the big one. And tonight's Daily Difference, Jobs 92, improving trade with Mexico. Mike Jensen tells us it means losing jobs.
Because sometimes the day ends and the pain doesn't, we've created Tylenol PM. It's more than relief. It's relief for those times when you can't sleep. Tylenol PM has extra-strength Tylenol pain reliever to help stop your nighttime aches and pains, plus a gentle ingredient to help you sleep. So you can wake up refreshed in the morning. From the name you trust comes Tylenol PM, so you can rest easy.
Every time you reach for a cereal, you have to make a choice. Well, what if next time you had to choose between these cereals based solely on the side panels? No brand names, no fancy packages, just the plain and simple facts. You'd find only one is low in sugar, and a good source of fiber, and made from whole grain oats. Cheerios. Compare the side panels and see for yourself. The choice is Cheerios.
19 years ago tomorrow, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion in this country in Roe versus Wade. Tonight, new battle lines are drawn. The court has agreed to review Pennsylvania's strict abortion law, the toughest in the country, but this case will not decide the broader issue of Roe versus Wade. NBC's Lisa Myers now.
It was a big disappointment to anti-abortion protesters, almost 300 of whom were arrested today outside local abortion clinics. They had hoped the court would use the Pennsylvania law to overturn a woman's right to abortion.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, up gotta go.
Also disappointed, abortion rights group, which hoped for a politically explosive ruling on Roe versus Wade before the 1992 election. But one person must have breathed at least a little easier. George Bush.
By not taking a case that raises the fundamental issue at this time, which would have been decided probably in June, they are certainly helping President Bush.
The Pennsylvania law, as upheld by a federal appeals court, would require doctors to tell women about fetal development and abortion alternatives and require women to wait 24 hours before having an abortion. Another provision struck down by the appeals court would require women to notify their spouses before terminating their pregnancies. Abortion rights groups argue that if the Supreme Court upholds any of these restrictions, it will be tantamount to overturning Roe.
Anything short of a resounding reaffirmation of Roe versus Wade will mean that for the first time in our history, a fundamental constitutional right will have been taken away.
They unveiled a political offensive, which will begin tomorrow.
No doubt President Bush is leading America into the back alleys again. The Bush Supreme Court is getting ready to make abortion illegal.
Anti-abortion groups agree that this conservative court will eventually make abortion illegal. But unless the court changes its mind, it won't be before the November election.
It will be overturned within the next few years. I don't think any of us can predict when that will happen.
And when is what matters most to George Bush. A ruling which significantly erodes or overturns abortion rights could be political dynamite. Today, the Supreme Court declined to light that fuse. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
At the United Nations today, the vote against Libya was unanimous. The Security Council demanded that Libya turn over the two suspects in the 1988 bombing of Pan Am Flight 103. If not, the UN could impose economic sanctions. Libya calls the charges baseless, but it has offered to try these two men at home. In eastern France overnight, it took rescue workers 4 hours in sub-freezing weather to reach the wreckage of a French jetliner that crashed while attempting to land. 87 people were killed. 9 passengers survived, among them a 9-year-old boy and a 13-month-old baby.
I couldn't sleep at all last night. I was tossing and turning all night.
Instead of tossing and turning, try Unisom. In medical tests, people fell asleep faster and slept better with Unisom than without.
I was sleeping and sleeping all night.
Take Unisom for faster, better sleep.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered the 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
In weather this raw, don't take chances with chapped lips. Take Chapstick. Chapstick lip balm is serious medicine, made to help chapped lips heal fast and healthy lips stay healthy. This winter, don't take chances. Take Chapstick.
Extra Strength Maalox Plus, the strongest antacid there is, now comes in extra strength tablets. Stronger than Tums, stronger than Rolaids. New Extra Strength Maalox Plus, now in tablets.
It's the strongest, and my stomach tells me it's fast.
Tonight's Daily Difference, Jobs 92. President Bush has said that his Japan talks were about jobs, jobs, jobs. Trade negotiations with Mexico also are about American jobs, about losing them. The talks aim to broaden markets and lower prices, but it has yet to happen. NBC's chief financial correspondent Mike Jensen has more on this tonight. Mike?
Tom, most analysts say a free trade agreement with Mexico would be good for the economies of both countries, but there's no question it would cost jobs in the United States. That's already happening. The United States has lost 450,000 jobs to Mexico in the last 7 years, and that's even before any new trade agreement. Yolanda Navarro worked at Pillsbury's Green Giant plant in California for 20 years, her husband for 13. They made good money, upwards of $7 an hour for each of them, enough to support their 5 children. They were happy, and so was Pillsbury.
We make them rich because we work hard there. I used to love my work. We were expecting to work there till we retire. That was a surprise for me to lose my job. Along with her job, she lost her paycheck, her benefits, and her security.
She's training to be a beautician, but it doesn't come easily. Yolanda would rather be in the Green Giant plant. But she and her husband and all the rest of these people were fired after Pillsbury built a new plant in Mexico and hired workers for 1/13 what it was paying the Navarros.
Which is not enough to keep kids in school, which is not enough to buy meat every day, which is not enough to rent a house, a decent home. I mean, what could be worse than that?
Pillsbury refused to let us inside its Mexican plant. Relocation is a very sensitive subject. It's at the heart of the controversy over a new trade pact with Mexico. When trade barriers come down, more American jobs will move south of the border. And what Pillsbury has already done will become common. It's bad for American workers, but good for American companies and consumers and for the Mexican economy.
The investment that we've made in Irapuato will help over time grow the economic infrastructure of the country as other people invest in Irapuato.
Laura Moreno works in the Mexican plant. She makes $4.50 a day. We met her at the bus stop outside. We need to work, she said. We accept what they pay us. What else can you do? She has 6 children. Her husband is a janitor. She says she's grateful to have the job at Green Giant, which pays 25 cents a day more than other factories. But she's still poor. She worries about her children. What will become of them? Their education, where they'll find jobs. My kids are limited by our circumstances, she says. Everything I earn goes for food. We asked her to speak directly to Yolanda in California, the woman whose job she took. Hang in there, she said. Keep trying. You'll find something. Keep fighting for your kids, because we have to do this for them. They have to eat. It's a message that fills the heart of every mother.
It's very hard for me to see my children. Sometimes they don't have the things that they used to have. Like sometimes they want me, Mommy, I want an apple. And my heart feels sad.
Because of the job issue, this is a real hot potato, especially in a presidential election year. There probably will be a free trade agreement, but not soon. Tom?
Thanks, Mike. Tomorrow's Daily Difference, vital signs. Tuberculosis is back. Resistant to antibiotics, it's a major new health threat, and it is linked to AIDS.
You make me feel so young. You make me feel there's songs to be sung. And every time I see you grin.
Promise Spread has no cholesterol and is lower in saturated fat than leading margarines.
You make me feel so young.
Promise. Get heart smart.
I'm home. There you guys are. Hiya, honey. Oh, what's wrong? This is usually your favorite part of the day. Oh, bad headache. Let me help. I'll take the kids. You take a Motrin IB. The doctor says it's the same medicine as in prescription Motrin, but in non-prescription strength. Really works on my headaches. So go relax. I'll take care of Mr. Duck.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
In art, taste is subjective, but in life, good taste is well defined. Fancy Feast gourmet cat food, exceptionally moist and delicious. Fancy Feast. Good taste is easy to recognize.
What do you smell?
I smell nothing. It's almost like you're working to breathe.
For fast relief, try Dristan 12-hour nasal spray. Now smell.
Orange, yeah. Tristan nasal spray. Worked very fast.
Dristan, the face of relief today. Now's the time for Centrum Silver, because you're over 50 and you're out there swinging. Centrum Silver, a complete vitamin formula for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
Cuba's Fidel Castro wants the world to know his determination to hang on to power in that country. In December, the government captured 3 Cuban exiles on a sabotage mission from the United States. One was executed last night despite international pleas to spare him. NBC's Ed Rabel is in Havana.
Cubans read that their government had carried out the execution, and there was more. The government announced it would crush all opposition, targeting not only Cuban exiles, but internal opponents as well.
We will not allow anyone coming from abroad to try to disrupt the peaceful effort in we are engaged at this moment, in which we have to face such difficult times.
Some people we talked to in Havana believed the government was justified in executing the Miami man.
I think it's a real warning. The message is quite clear. First, anybody who tries to come to Cuba again, we think it twice.
Cuba says the Miami infiltrators were in cahoots with local dissidents. It even broadcast the dissidents' names and addresses on nationwide TV last week. The homes of the dissidents, quiet today, had been besieged by pro-government demonstrators. The regime also cracked down by arresting at least 24 opponents in the last 2 weeks. A growing economic crisis here means long lines even for pizza. Meat, milk, and eggs are luxuries. People are suffering.
Opponents of the government believe President Castro used the execution to send a message to his people. Outside aggressors are causing Cuba's problems. The system is not to blame. Ed Rabel, NBC News, Havana.
From Cuba back to Japan and its observations about how Americans do their work. John Chancellor now with commentary. John.
Tom, the current fuss with Japan made me wonder if Jiro is still doing his George Bush number. Jiro is a big star in Japan, a little monkey who does tricks on television. When President Bush fainted at a Tokyo dinner, a new act was added to Jiro's repertoire. Jiro's trainer now says, Bush-san, Bush-san. The monkey closes his eyes and keels over. The audience howls with laughter. That's what the Japanese think of Americans these days, and the American president in particular. The Japanese, incidentally, do think American workers are lazy, but they think American bosses are a much bigger problem, especially in the automobile business. They say American cars made by workers in the United States under American management don't sell well in Japan and are losing market share even in the United States. But Japanese cars, they say, made by workers in the United States with Japanese management are gaining market share. Conclusion, bad American management is the problem, not bad American workers. The same is true in Western Europe. The sales of Nissan cars there are way up. Many of those cars were made in England by British workers under Japanese management. So the Japanese were offended when the big manager in Washington, President Bush, went to Tokyo with the big 3 American automobile managers. And when the managers from Detroit whined and complained, the Japanese were insulted. My guess is the monkey is still doing his George Bush fainting act, and the Japanese are still laughing. Tom?
Thank you, John. And a big American aerospace company today announced some very big layoffs. United Technologies, reeling from defense cuts and recession, said it would cut almost 14,000 jobs over the next 4 years, including 12% of its executive force. The firm said about 100 plants will be closed or consolidated. Profit-taking was the order of the day on Wall Street. The Dow was down sharply in heavy trading.
I use a shampoo for dandruff, but my scalp still itches like crazy.
You need new Scalpicin, the revolutionary scalp medicine for deep scalp itch, not ordinary dandruff. Scalpicin is not a shampoo. It's a clear liquid you don't wash away like shampoo. Apply Scalpicin anytime for deep scalp itch relief with medicine chosen by doctors over all these dandruff shampoo formulas. Scalpicin penetrates to relieve the itch and help prevent flaking.
The itch is gone.
New Scalpicin, the scalp medicine for deep scalp itch.
If this were a perfect world, we'd all be driving expensive cars and living on beachfront property. But in the real world, you have to eat. Well, you can eat tuna once in a while. And you have to buy stuff like socks and shoes and CDs. Well, maybe not so many CDs. Fortunately, the people at Isuzu have to buy stuff too. That's why they created the Rodeo, a four-wheel drive vehicle you can afford, and why they'll give you a great deal on a sound system and air conditioning. So now, you can buy more stuff. Oh, we forgot to mention taxes.
Campbell's heard your healthy requests.
Low fat.
Less salt.
But lots of taste.
Here's our answer. New Campbell's Healthy Request ready-to-serve soups. All the great taste you want without some things you don't. New Campbell's Healthy Request. And healthy.
Guess which of these fruits, ounce for ounce, has the most vitamins and minerals? Yep, the California prune.
Sweet, delicious California prunes. Find out how good they really are.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect. Pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect.
Paul, you shoveled the driveway already? Oh, your back's hurting again? You need Motrin IB. Works great for backaches. You take the Motrin, I'll finish the driveway.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
The man believed to be the modern godfather went on trial today, and this time the Justice Department is convinced he won't get off. John Gotti. As NBC's John Miller tells us tonight, the opening round did bring together a curious cast.
Security around John Gotti for the first day of jury selection was tight. Gotti is charged with being the boss of the Gambino crime family, ordering the hit on the former boss, Paul Castellano, and 3 others. Gotti has been in jail waiting for his trial to begin for more than a year. Today, he waited a few minutes more. George Santangelo, the lawyer for Gotti's co-defendant, Frank Locascio, was thrown off the case today. The judge ruled that Santangelo had not been picked by Locascio, but assigned to defend Locascio on Gotti's orders. Locascio stood and faced the judge to complain. Pointing to the flag, Locascio said, "That's the American flag, not a swastika." But Santangelo was out.
I find nothing wrong with the unified defense, and I find everything wrong with that decision, and we intend to go to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals to have Judge Glasser reversed.
An unlikely ally came to Gotti's defense, William Kunstler. The radical lawyer known for defending yippies and revolutionaries says he and Gotti are old friends. And he'll take Gotti's case before former Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, who is now sitting in a New York federal appeals court.
A person who's accused of crime, particularly of serious crime, which might mean life in jail, has the right to a lawyer of his own choice.
Meanwhile, hundreds of prospective jurors were given 21 pages of questions. The 84 questions ranged from job, economic, and marital status to whether they had friends or family in the FBI or in jail.
Jury selection in this case may take 3 weeks, and federal authorities are worried about the prospect of jury tampering. During the trial, which may last 3 months, the jury will be sequestered in a hotel under the guard of U.S. Marshals.
So jury selection continues, while a radical lawyer goes to bat for Gotti in a higher court, and Gotti, held without bail, goes back to prison to watch it all on TV. John Miller, NBC News, New York.
That's Nightly News for this Tuesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Coming up next from your 24-hour news source, drunk driving is suspected in the second accident in 10 days on Highway 6569. We'll have team coverage.
This man is charged with the murder of an 11-year-old Des Moines girl. News Center 13 discovers new information in the case.
And Iowa State wrestling coach says he's had enough. Jim Gibbons is calling it quits.
Those stories, and Gary tells us how long January spring break will stay with us. All the news coming up next.
Introducing appetizer and dessert shells.
Bend me, shape me, any way you want me. Long as you love me, it's alright. Twist me, bake me, any way you want me. You got a crunchy, crispy delight.
New appetizer and dessert shells bake up so crispy, so easy, so go ahead.